Hey, real voice here, rather than Atom set to 10% stability.
How can I sky body toilet sigma alpha beta lux max?
Something I found to be a common obstacle for new players to GURPS is framing their expectations for what their first campaigns or characters are going to look like. If you're new, you may not have had to think about this, mainly because your first exposure to GURPS was likely being told it can do anything. So if you're a devout GURPer who probably hasn't even read the rules, you may see this video as utmost heresy. Not using GURPS?
What's that? What'd you say? Okay. Feed him to the lions.
No!
I feel that now is a good opportunity to show when you should and when you shouldn't use GURPS when you're new to the system. Starting with the situations you should avoid getting yourself into to keep yourself from potentially being bogged down by all the options. Because let's face it, we've all been there. There's a lot to cover and you shouldn't be expected to read everything. After all, you may even learn a new TTRPG if it turns out that GURPS isn't an immediate fit for what you're looking for. Let's start with the first situation you should avoid in your games as a new player: unreasonably high power levels. This may seem like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how often I see new players ask how to make a campaign based on a world where people are actively breaking the laws of reality like it's nothing. It's going to be hard to run if you're just getting in the swing of things. For a rule of thumb, if you see someone punching through solid stone with ease in the media your campaign is based on, it's too high-powered for beginners. But Fed, I hear you ask. If everyone has high stats, it's kind of like no one has high stats, right? And to that, I say not at all. There are many more rules that apply to the stat lines of characters that are beyond the level of 400 points. The rules need a bit of restructuring around that, and that's mainly what the Supers book's job is. If you're only just getting acclimated to the base rules of GURPS, it's really best to keep things more close to the chest. And this isn't even mentioning the Pandora's box of balancing that is the Powers book. To truly know that book means you have been wronged by one of your player's most horrendous innate attack combos, and that experience is better left to a test OneShot rather than your flagship game. I recommend not going any higher than 200 points for your first game. You can keep track of your player's abilities better, and it'll be easier on them in character creation. They may not be able to perform the same ridiculous feats, but it will feel a lot smoother to play. Besides, there are books like GURPS Dungeon Fantasy, Gun Fu, and Action that remove some of the more simulationist rules that GURPS has. If you really must play in a high-powered setting, then just run mutants and masterminds. It's better suited for games with superhero-esque characters. Let's get into the next reason you may not want to use GURPS as a newbie: setting up a quick one-shot in less than an hour. This may seem absolutely bonkers to some. Who would want to spontaneously play a TTRPG with barely any planning? The thing is, some TTRPGs are actually built with this exact intent. For players to be able to whip up characters in 15 minutes and GMs to be able to make a quick story in less than an hour. GURPS is not that kind of game. Unless if you've got some experience on your belt and have pre-gen character sheets for your players, I recommend against doing this. In my experience, GURPS works best when you give yourself time to cement your character traits, so that they effortlessly flow during gameplay, whether they're roleplay or combat aspects. You need to set campaign boundaries, guide the players through character building, and design the session. That's not something you can do in such a small time frame at a moment's notice. The last thing I want you to do is rush into GURPS. It's not like it's going anywhere. If you're in that sort of a pinch or just want to stretch your GM muscles, just run something like Monster of the Week. The rules are super simple, and I guarantee you'll have a good time playing it. The next pitfall for new GURPS players is trying to painstakingly recreate an already established setting. Being a new game master is already hard. Now you want to add game developer to your list of responsibilities? There's a reason why companies pay people to do it. It takes a lot of knowledge of games and how they work in order to build fun and balanced rules. This is not me saying don't homebrew. GURPS is built for it. This is me saying don't try to replicate every Dark Souls spell and weapon in GURPS like I promised I would 6 months ago.
Gives me conniptions.
There was a Reddit post, I know, titled GURPS is generic. That was one of the inspirations for me to make this video in the first place. Sure, you can build everything, but should you? Do I really need to tally off the laundry list of powers to give to a party of GURPS Space Marines? I can, but I shouldn't. Because GURPS at its best is what inspires you from these IPs to make, not to copy what they actually are. I'm also in no way saying imitating established settings is wrong either. It's just needlessly time-consuming and can limit your frame of thinking. Using an existing power as a framework for a character you're building is fine. Everyone does it and should do it. But don't get so caught up in the details that you're sapping your time from what would be better used adapting what already is provided in GURPS, which is a lot as is. This is especially the case if you're already geared towards playing an existing TTRPG setting. If you only really feel like playing in that one world, you're better off just running those games rather than GURPS, unless if there's a specific mechanic that made you interested in it in particular. I think I've gotten the big reasons out of the way. This video may seem like an essay on why not to play GURPS, but it's really not the case. I genuinely love this game, and I'm telling you these things in order to make your first time playing go as smooth as humanly possible. So how should you start when you're new? Start small. Think about where you want to have your campaign start out, and find the relevant books that correspond to the setting and feel. You shouldn't need to use more than 3 books other than GURPS Basic. And if you don't know what to start with, then honestly just pick any core setting book at random. They just have a way of extracting campaign ideas from your brain, and will oftentimes have sections dedicated to running games in their devoted niches. Among these 3 books, there should be 3 archetypes that are very helpful to form a concise game. Those would be setting books, genre books, and combat books. Sometimes a single book can fill multiple types, and perhaps even all of them if you're going more bare bones. The setting books can include any of the tech modules that GURPS has, in addition to any period or world-specific books. They're made to bring texture and substance to your world through rules about equipment, trade, structures, and much more. It's going to make building encounters and interactable towns a lot easier on you. Genre books are much more about how the game plays, whether it be adding or changing rules to fit a more stylized feel for what you're looking for. And combat books are just that, built for combat. This can be in the form of new skills, equipment, or even enemy stat blocks. Allow me to show you the process of finding core books to use for an inspired setting. Let's say you've played an obscure indie game called Lethal Company, and you wanted to adapt it into GURPS. Moving through the 3 types of books to start with, we'll be able to make a GURPS game based on this insane cooperative horror experience. Starting with the setting book, let's turn our attention to Ultratech, which has a section on retro-styled tech in an imagined future. This means you'll be dabbling in TLs as low as 6, but also as high as 10 sometimes. When it comes to genre, it's clear that you'll be using horror, as much of the themes involve an extreme imbalance of power between the players and the monsters they may find in the outposts. And for the combat book, you may find that horror is enough, as the book has a bunch of creature stat blocks to pit against your party. If you want even more creatures, consider using a little bit of dungeon fantasy monsters, though some monsters are more suitable than others. So here we go. You've got 3 books with 3 main purposes for how you're going to use them. I'd normally tell new players to stay away from Ultratech, but Lethal Company is not hugely granular when it comes to sci-fi aspects, so you'll only really need it for gadgets and security systems. And with that, you've laid the foundation for your first game, and for your knowledge of more books to come. Eventually, your repertoire will include everything if you bounce around enough. If you're someone who's new to GURPS, then I genuinely hope this has been at least some help to you in making your first game. Starting a new TTRPG can be a bit of a leap of faith, and I'm sure the GURPS community is more than happy to have more people running games. I know this may be a bit of a detour from what I normally post, but it's more of a proof of concept for another video I may make on the adventure I'm writing right now. I wanted to make something that's more from me. But if this is one of those videos where you struggle to get through because the speaker's voice is annoying, then I'll just stick to making memes and adventures. But either way, thanks for sticking to the end. Stay GURPing.